I brought an old friend up to my grandfather's cabin because I wanted a few quiet days, no phones, no traffic, no people acting like they own the air around me. What I got instead was an HOA president trying to control my guest list, fake legal power over my land, sabotage my water, and eventually light the whole place up like a revenge fantasy gone wrong. And yeah, I know how that sounds. But some people get a taste of authority and start acting like God handed them a clipboard. My friend Rick rode up with me that evening. Calm as ever, coffee in hand, like the mountain road wasn't shaking the truck to pieces. I'd known him for over 20 years. He didn't say much about his work, except that it involved some federal office back in D.C., and with Rick, that usually meant I was better off not asking too many questions. If he wanted to disappear into the woods for a weekend, he had his reasons. I respected that. The cabin looked the way I liked it. Rough timber, steel door, porch out front, seat in the walls, old smoke in the air. That first night felt normal. We had drinks, cooked meat over the fire, traded old lies about who was a better shot back in the Army, and for a few hours it felt like the world had finally backed off. Next morning, Rick and I went to check the water intake down by the stream. He kept looking downhill toward the new development that had crept up along the forest edge. Neat houses, tidy roads, solar roofs, the whole polished little kingdom. I told him that was the HOA development, Whisper Pines. He asked who ran it. I told him there was a woman named Karen who liked to talk about community harmony, which was really just rich people language for I want control over things I do not own. She'd already sent letters before, tried to push rules on me, even sent some clipboard clown up my road once. I sent him back down real fast. I thought that would be enough. It wasn't. That night, Karen showed up in a silver Lexus, stepped out in some expensive scarf with a clipboard under her arm, and marched up like she thought she was serving a warrant. She said there had been complaints, said I was harboring an overnight guest, said I had to register anyone staying on the property. Now you tell me how you'd react to that. A woman from an HOA I never joined, standing on land she did not own, telling me I needed permission to let a friend sleep in my own cabin. I told her to get back in the car and head downhill. She said she'd escalate. I told her I was looking forward to it. Rick watched the whole thing without saying much. After she left, he just looked at me and said, "She's going to be a problem." He was right. The next day, she came back with backup. 2 black SUVs and a handful of private security guys dressed up like discount deputies. Karen stood there waving some folder around, claiming that because my land was adjacent to their development, I had to comply with their standards. She actually used the phrase visual compliance, like my cabin had offended her spiritually. Rick stepped off the porch, folded his arms, and said real calm, "Lady, this isn't Baghdad. You don't send armed men to someone's home because you don't like the guest list." That hit harder than anything I could have said. One of her guards started acting brave until Rick looked at him the way only a man who's seen real trouble can look at somebody. Karen backed off, but not before promising more trouble. A few hours later, Rick found a tracker near my trail. That was the moment the whole thing stopped feeling ridiculous and started feeling dangerous. This wasn't some petty HOA argument anymore. Somebody had put a tracker on my vehicle or near my road. Somebody wanted to know where I went when I came back, how often I was alone. That night, my trail cam caught movement by the lower gate. 2 figures with flashlights. One was Karen. The other looked like one of her security boys. Then the camera feed went black. We grabbed our rifles, not because we were looking for a fight, but because by then it was criminal trespass, and we both knew it. We found them near my well intake. Karen was bent over the lock, messing with it. Rick told him to step away, or he'd call the sheriff. She tried to claim it was shared water, and she had a right to inspect it. That woman lied like it was second nature. When they finally backed off, Rick said the thing I didn't want to hear. She wasn't snooping. She was trying to make the place unlivable. Next morning, he traced the tracker purchase through a friend. Shell account. Sure, but the shipping address tied back to the HOA office. So now I had proof. I took everything to the sheriff, trail cam footage, video, boundary maps, the tracker details. The deputy told me to keep documenting and call immediately if they came back. On my way home, I found a fake enforcement sign nailed near my gate, claiming my property was under review. Later that day, some nervous intern delivered a fake legal notice telling me I had 72 hours to vacate. They had literally invented authority on paper and hoped I'd panic. My lawyer told me not to move, not to respond, and to document every breath Karen took near my land. Then Karen got clever. She sent contractors. 3 landscaping guys rolled up in a work truck, saying they were there to begin grading work for some green belt buffer project. They had paperwork, but it was fake. Scanned logo, no seal, no parcel number, all nonsense. I told them they were trespassing. To their credit, those men backed out fast once they realized they'd been used. That was when I saw the real shape of it. Karen wasn't just harassing me. She would try to build a paper trail to make it look like my land was already being managed, already being absorbed, already halfway under her control. That night, one of the motion lines near the brush got cut. Rick and I moved fast and caught 2 people in dark clothes near my brush pile. One of them was Karen. Again, they had a bucket. When they bolted, they dropped it. Diesel, kindling accelerant. Enough to start something ugly, especially that close to the propane line. That changed everything. The sheriff came, then the fire marshal, then the arson people. They looked at the footage, the bucket, the fake letters, the forged contractor paperwork, and suddenly this wasn't neighborhood tension anymore. It was criminal, organized, deliberate. My lawyer filed for an emergency restraining order. The judge granted it, keeping Karen and anyone acting for the HOA off my property. Karen, being Karen, ignored the spirit of that immediately. She showed up near the ridge with a loudspeaker and some fresh stack of made-up papers, shouting about easement rights and citizen authority, like she was founding her own tiny republic. I didn't yell back. I just filmed her. That footage went up the chain. Next morning, a man from the state attorney general's office came to my cabin. Suit badge, briefcase, no smile. He laid out forged documents I hadn't even seen before. Fake annexation records, fake fire risk maps, filings meant to make it look like my land had already been pulled under HOA control. He said the word I'd been feeling all week, but hadn't said out loud yet. Fraud. Not just Karen. Either a scheme, multiple people, paperwork, money, false complaints, fake zoning pressure, all aimed at swallowing land that wasn't part of their community. I gave them everything. That night the state raided the HOA office. Karen didn't go quietly. Locked herself in. Screamed through speakers. Acted like she was a victim of tyranny. Didn't matter. They put her in cuffs anyway. Treasurer too. Vice President too. Their little empire cracked all at once. I thought that might be the end of it. It wasn't. A few former board members hit me with lawsuits. The usual cheap intimidation game. Defamation, harassment. All that garbage. My attorney took one look and smiled the kind of smile you only see right before somebody gets professionally destroyed. She filed anti-SLAPP motions, demanded sanctions, and when the hearing came, the judge tore their case apart in open court. Dismissed. Referred for review. Humiliated. Then the state dug deeper. Money trails led to local officials. More forged records turned up. Karen's sister was tied in too. Grand jury got involved. More indictments came down. Racketeering, forgery, conspiracy, fraud, one charge after another. Turns out they've been planning to absorb isolated parcels like mine for a long time, using pressure, fake authority, and fear to drive people out. A month later, I sat in the courtroom and watched Karen get convicted on all of it. She didn't look at me when they led her away. 10 years. No parole. Just like that, The woman who once stood on my porch acting like she owned my life got marched out in cuffs because she couldn't stand the idea that one piece of land, one stubborn man, and one steel gate were still outside her control. Back at the cabin, the mountain finally sounded like itself again. Wind in the trees, boots on gravel, no SUVs, no fake patrols, no clipboards, just quiet. I walked down to the gate where Karen's people had once put up fake notices and false markers. I pulled the last of their mess from the dirt, tossed it into the woods, and hung a fresh sign. Private property. Trespassers will be prosecuted. And underneath that, because by then I'd earned a little pettiness, I added one more line. Not part of any HOA. Never was. Never will be. That whole mess taught me something ugly and useful. Power doesn't always show up wearing a uniform. Sometimes it shows up in a nice car, with polished shoes, fake paperwork, and the absolute certainty that nobody will stop it. And if you give in once, even out of exhaustion, people like that will take the rest in pieces. So let me ask you this: when someone abuses a little bit of power to grab what was never theirs, where do you think the line should be? And when karma finally shows up, do you call that justice or just overdue payback? Tell me what you think. And if you've ever dealt with someone drunk on petty authority, I want to hear that story too.